This is From Justin to Kane, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same. Welcome, everybody, to From Justin to Kane. It's still us. I'm Bob.
I am Mike.
I am Mike. This week is a doozy. I'm actually upset with Mike that he made me watch one of these movies.
For once, it's a doozy.
Yeah, normally our episodes aren't doozies, but this one is literally a doozy.
Truly.
Mike and some friends, they curate films and they'll watch them or whatever. But he did this great bit. He's like, we're gonna do, what's it called? Street Trash? The movie's called Street Trash. He's like, we're gonna watch Street Trash. So he sends me a link to Street Trash, and I'm like, oh, awesome. And then it starts off with the trailer to Sequence 3 and Sequence 2 of the Human Centipede.
Yes.
And then the first 6 minutes of the Human Centipede, the first film.
Yeah, so at our Thursday night film club, I had pranked everybody into thinking we were gonna watch the Human Centipede because we always put trailers at the beginning.
Yeah. And then I literally, the point I paused it was when it cut to Street Trash, but like moments before, and then I texted Mike and said, you gave me the wrong link. I have the Human Centipede on my hard drive. And then Mike just replied, it's a prank. But then I watched Street Trash, and honestly, I think I would have rather seen the Human Centipede.
Yeah.
Street Trash was nasty.
The bad movie this week is Street Trash. The good movie is Tim Burton's
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And boy, are they different.
But no, they're not. They're the same.
Well, yeah, you're right. They are the same.
I have at least 5 reasons why they're exactly the same.
Wow, that's a long list. I like it. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess they're both like dark and twisted. You know?
Yeah, they're truly twisted. They're damaged.
And I think they depict ugly America.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But They do it on the flip side of a coin, right? Because like Edward Scissorhands is such a fun exploration of suburbia and like consumer culture. And shout out to Southgate Shopping Center.
Yeah, exactly.
And we literally have one in the city we live in.
We have one. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, the two films, but I hated Street Trash so much. I texted Mike multiple times saying, I hate you. I hate this film. I wish I was watching the Human Centipede instead.
Honestly, I was disappointed in Street Trash.
Why? What was the reason?
Well, I have a soft spot for practical effects and for like, goo and
phantasmagorical toilets.
Phantasmagorical stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you love toilet slime.
I love it. So, like, the Ghoulies, love that stuff.
Well, this is part of the toilet exploitation genre, I think.
Exactly.
Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, and Street Trash are both toilet exploitation.
Nice. Turlet exploitation.
Turlet exploitation, yes.
Pronounce it right. You have to use the official From Justin to Kane pronunciation if you're going to be a host.
Turlet, yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get booted. You're going to be forced to resign. The Canaanites are going to be barking at you to resign.
Yeah.
Resign as host. But also like, woof, 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 woof.
We'll translate it.
Well, yeah, I think everybody knows what Edward Scissorhands is.
They better.
It's like a Tim Burton movie from the early 90s.
It's one of his top 5, I would say. Mm-hmm. It's like young Burton, post Batman, pre, Willy Wonka and Dark Shadows, and like the era in which he started to make some less great films. This was peak, because early 90s Tim Burton is like peak Tim Burton.
Yeah, he had Batman Returns, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Pee-wee, Big Top Pee-wee, this. And that's it. That's where the list ends. Frankenweenie. Well, he produced Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh, yeah,
and
right.
It was his concept.
Yeah, I totally forgot Batman, regular Batman.
I love how you started with the sequel, and I was like, Mike, that's so ballsy. I love it.
He was also very prolific during this time because Batman came out in 1989. When did Edward Scissorhands come out?
1990.
Yeah, and Pee Wee Herman came out sometime around then too. It might have been 88.
Pee Wee Herman was 88. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his first studio film.
Then Batman Returns was 92.
Yes. And then we got into fun stuff like Mars Attacks and that movie about that filmmaker who made Plan 9 from Outer Space, whatever the hell, Ed Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff. Lots of fun stuff in the 90s.
Yeah, Tim Burton had like a really good decade and a half. Not that he hasn't had a good decade and a half since then.
You mean 2 decades?
2 decades.
He had a really good 2 decades.
Yeah. But Street Trash is an oddity of a film. It was kind of hard to find until recently. They did a pristine Blu-ray re-release with like a 2-disc.
Who asked for that? Did you ask for that?
It's a cult film.
Oh, I hate it.
So there's people out there who love watching this movie. And I was intrigued by it because a bunch of people were talking on Twitter about what's like a good slimy horror film. And this one was at the top of the list for some people. And so I looked on Letterboxd and it looked right up my alley. There's a picture of like a man melting into a toilet. Turlet.
Come on, Mike.
And so it's like, well, this is what I want to see. I love a good old slime-a-rama.
You love the Nickelodeon Teen Choice Awards.
I love
because they get slimed. You love
exactly.
that.
I love that. Yeah.
I'd just watch it for the slime.
What else is there to watch it for?
You're a sick, twisted guy, Mike.
Best chemistry? To see who wins best chemistry? Choice chemistry? That's what it is. Choice chemistry.
Choice chemistry. Yeah.
The description on Letterboxd of Street Trash is as follows: "Things in New York are about to go down the toilet" is one of the taglines, and then the synopsis is: "A group of hobos begins melting into multicolored piles of goo after drinking 60-year-old liquor." I'm sold already. At the same time, the psychotic Vietnam War vet who rules the hobo camp snaps and begins killing at random. I'm listening. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2 brothers set out to stop the liquor and the killer. I mean, this sounds like it could be great, but unfortunately, not enough slime. That's my review.
Not enough slime and too many things that were just like way too dicey for me as a viewer.
It does it. Yeah. Well, I mean,
there's some nasty shit in this movie.
I can get into a little bit of the background on the vision for the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into it.
Okay. So a man named...
Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. So 1987, Street Trash comes out, directed by J. Michael Murrow, who, you will be interested to find out, went on to become one of the more prolific Steadicam operators in Hollywood, working for James Cameron many, many a time.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that why? Is he the one doing all the Steadicam shots in this movie? Because there are like a lot of them, and they're excessive.
Yeah, this movie is very well shot considering what it is. There's some cool camera work. There's a couple of long takes. Somebody described, when I was watching it, somebody described it a Tarkovskian long take at one point, which I was like, not expecting that.
Just because it's a oneer doesn't make it a Tarkovskian, vision.
Well, doesn't it though?
No.
Okay. There's a couple of oneers in here, which is you don't see in slime-a-ramas, is what I'm saying.
Yes. No, and you're absolutely right. It was ambitious. Like, to me, it felt like they got a Steadicam operator who was like brand new, and they just put them through the ringer.
Yeah.
Because they're like jumping over garbage and going through like heaps, chasing people at running speed. Yeah. And it's all done pretty competently. Well, yeah. So
J. Michael Murrow, the director, went on to become a Steadicam operator. Mm-hmm. The writer, Roy Frumkes, went on to inexplicably work for the National Board of Review.
What?
So, yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, I mean, he would know what's worth censoring and what's not, kind of thing.
That's true. I mean, this film crossed the line many times. Yeah. Many, many times.
And speaking of being put through the ringer, not ringer, but rhymes with ringer, Bryan Singer. He worked on the film as a grip. This is one of his first movies.
Oh my God. X-Men. He did the early X-Men movies, right?
Yeah. Although he is canceled now, but.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
But
interesting. That's crazy that he worked on the movie.
Yeah, so Roy Frumkes, who wrote it, who now works for the National Board of Review, he wanted to offend everybody on the planet with this movie, which is why it kind of like taps into so many social issues and kind of has a devil-may-care attitude about them.
It's very senseless.
Yes.
It's just like, it felt like it was for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, so there's...
And I guess that was true.
The fact that they're called hobos, you know, when they're, you know, homeless people, or the common nomenclature now is we would call them unhoused.
Yeah.
However, I did think that the movie humanizes them in a way where you feel for them and you can see them as kind of cast off by capitalism.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I mean, interestingly, it does tackle some things, not tastefully, but in a way that like a lot of films wouldn't do. Like it tackles PTSD.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, sort of the social stratification that occurs with people who are going through mental health crisis, and then they become homeless.
Yeah, it seemed like it had an element of honesty to it, even as it was going for extreme tastelessness.
Yeah, turlet material.
Yes. Yeah. And also kind of is a good representation of kind of that era, like late 80s New York.
Yes.
Because a lot of the areas I read that they filmed in are now kind of hipster enclaves, as it were. They've all been gentrified.
People love brick.
Exactly. So,
hey, look at that brick. Let's turn it into a brewery.
I went to Bushwick when I was in New York, and
yeah,
it's like, feels like you're in a rundown factory area where just like all these factories closed, and then people just put coffee shops in these rundown places. So you feel like you're just walking through a post-apocalypse, but everybody just lives there and sells.
Drinking flat whites.
Yeah, drinking flat whites. Going to the thrift store. That looks like it's in a building that should be condemned. But it's not. It's stylish and cool and hip.
Ain't that the truth, Mike? Ain't that the truth?
So the movie became a cult hit. And a lot of the people who watched it at midnight shows kind of saw it as a, quote, renegade work, like kind of punk rock thing that kind of is, you know, nihilistically raging against the machine, so to speak.
Wow, that's a hot take.
Chuck Bowen of Slant Magazine said it's like Repo Man in that it celebrates the proletariat's resigned disenfranchisement as a badge of aesthetic honor, which I guess is true.
No, it's not true, but that's fine.
No,
whatever.
I guess we can say that's true though. But I mean, it's kind of like Gen X rebellion kind of movie. In that it's just like, we don't care. We're the latchkey kids of society. But to the extreme where it's like, we literally live in a fortress made of tires.
Yes. I thought there was some fun, like, art department stuff with the junkyard.
Yes.
Like, living inside of the tire mountain was fun. I was like, oh, that's cool. It's irrelevant, but it's cool, you know?
Bob's cracking a bubbly while he's talking.
Drink up, everybody. Got to stay hydrated.
He's a thirsty boy.
Yeah. Well, I drank a whole pot of coffee before this and didn't have any water, and I am feeling it. Let me tell you. I'm not, like, awake. I just feel fucked, you know?
Classic.
I feel like I just drank some Viper, and I'm getting sucked into a turlet.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, continue. More about this awful film.
Michael Murrow, J. Michael Murrow originally made it as a student film, so there's a 10-minute version floating around somewhere.
Oh, I would love to see that, to see what the difference is.
I bet it would be a much more concise movie in terms of the boring parts to slime ratio.
Yeah, well, you're all about the slime ratio to exposition. Needs to be at least 1-to-1, if not 2-to-1. Yeah, 2 slimes per exposition.
Exactly. The movie starts off on a bang with a good toilet slime, where a guy melts into a toilet after drinking this booze. This hooch, they call it. And then then there's like long stretches of drama, I guess you could say, followed by just incredibly wacky set pieces, such as a part where a guy gets his wiener cut off and then they throw it around.
for 10 minutes. That's a 10-minute short film right there. I love it too because the penis is clearly multiple props depending on the shot. It's like bright orange in the sky, but then the prop that they're actually holding is just clearly like a dildo, and it's like a different color altogether.
Yeah.
And the guy gets his dick chopped off, and he's not in pain. He's just in shock.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, hey, give that back.
Yeah. And then he keeps screaming, put it on ice.
Yeah.
Did you pick up the, I think they made a choice in the sound. His voice went up in pitch.
Oh, really?
Post wiener slicing, which is kind of like a fun little detail.
That's a fun detail, yeah.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, that is super neat. Yeah, really
I think,
neat.
He's a good filmmaker, but a great Steadicam operator. Wowee.
Yeah. You'd be excited to learn that the first cut was almost 3 hours long.
I would rather die than watch the 3-hour version.
I think they considered releasing that, in the later years after it became a cult hit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The obnoxious kid in the movie is played by a famous reality show person.
Mm.
So You Think You Can Dance, an American Idol contestant, Bernardo, who kind of was popular in the last couple of years on YouTube from just being sassy to the judges, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look him up, but this was a fact that I read about. His IMDb only lists street trash and reality shows.
Wow.
So
that's
there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah,
you know what? It's a living.
He kind of had a, his heyday was in 2007-ish. So 20 years after street trash, he kind of had his heyday.
Amazing if you're like an overnight success, but then they're like, actually, 20 years ago, he was in this horrific slime turlet exploitation film.
Yeah. It's a bad movie, but James Cameron loves it.
He enjoys the film?
He's seen it. He went to a screening in LA, with the Steadicam operator guy, J. Michael Moreau.
Wow. Crazy.
J. Michael Moreau supposedly became a born-again Christian and distanced himself from the film due to his employment as a camera guy, and then also thinking that the movie was a moral nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Oh, truly. It's like a minefield of it's like the antithesis of Christian values, I would say.
Yeah, but also
to an extent.
But also this is, Republicans' America, you know what I'm saying? This is Reagan's America.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah.
So, he has to deal with, I guess, that in his brain. Just, I mean, I'm assuming he's a Republican. He might not be. But he did record a commentary for the recent DVD from a couple of years ago. So he distanced himself, but then he was like, you know what? I'll take part in this DVD release because it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great.
And then lastly, they were going to cast Bert Young, who plays Rocky's brother in the Rocky movies.
Oh, wow.
Paulie, the guy who plays Paulie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to cast as one of the characters. He wanted to play Bronson, like the lead hobo.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But then scheduling didn't work out, so.
Boy, did he dodge a bullet.
Yeah, he said he liked the script.
I can't believe, I was just shocked that people were in this movie.
I know. Yeah. Well, yeah. It feels
I don't get it. Like, I can't even fathom. Like, I've worked on some real stinkers, but this is one I would draw the line. Be like, I'm not working on this.
This would be fun though to make.
I think if you're the slime guy, it would be like a fucking creature effects guy's wet dream.
Yeah.
Slimy I guess dream. Another similarity is both films are sort of they utilize a lot of on-camera makeup effects.
Yeah.
Right? Because Stan Winston famously did the Edward Scissorhands effects. And figured out the gloves and the scarring and the hair and all that shit. And obviously, I forget the guy's name, but there's a lot of slime work in this. This was all the money went to slime.
Quality slime work.
It is fun. Some of them are fun, but the scene I had the biggest issue was when the detective kills that guy, drops him by the urinal, fingers his own throat, and vomits on the guy.
Yes.
I was like, I draw a line. Slime, neon colored slime I can get by, but just making realistic vomit, self-induced on a dead body, I was like, okay, this is a bit much, isn't it?
But it was by a urinal. You would have expected him to pee on the guy.
That's true. I guess it's clever filmmaking because they sort of invert your expectations.
Exactly. Very clever.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's all I got to say about slime-a-rama,
street trash,
toilet exploitation, street trash.
Okay. Great. That's good. I loathe the film. Everyone should see it. Although I guess it's hard to find. Or you have to buy a Blu-ray?
Anymore. You have to buy a Blu-ray, but you can probably find it online.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, if you know what I mean. Edward Scissorhands. I love this film. Grew up on it. Own it on DVD. Big fan. Released in 1990. Directed by Tim Burton. Conceptually, so like many of his earlier projects, he was an animator at Warner Brothers, and he drew a bunch of characters, and like Jack Skellington was one. Edward Scissorhands was one. That little dog from Frankenweenie was one. So he has like this whole backlog of characters, and this is one of them. And then he became famous after doing the Pee Wee Herman movie, Batman.
Yes.
And then so this was a project that he brought forth to, I believe, Warner Brothers. It's written by Caroline Thompson, who also wrote Nightmare Before Christmas, the final draft. It was made for $20 million and earned $86 million. It was a huge hit. It was also Johnny Depp's first leading role in a feature film.
Oh, there you go.
He had 21 Jump Street and the Nightmare on Elm Street. The score is by none other than Danny Elfman, who I learned on the Netflix show The Movies That Made Us. He was the lead singer of Oingo Boingo.
That's right, yeah.
I did not realize he was like in a band before he got into scoring.
He's actually been putting out new music recently.
Oh, really?
He did a collab with Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails.
Whoa. I know what Nin is.
Which is just okay.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And Trent's parts are the cooler parts.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all. So his first... Danny Elfman's first gig was with Tim Burton. So Tim Burton and him sort of have this marriage, and they've done a ton of stuff. Obviously, they've done every film together. So it started out with illustrations. So he was actually a teenager when he drew the first like Edward Scissorhands guy, apparently. The film's heavily influenced by Universal horror films.
Yes.
And they wanted to like modernize it, but really like use visual gags from those films, and I think it works. Would you say that Street Trash was influenced by Universal horror?
Yes, in that the universal horror of being, just trying to survive,
just trying to get by, man.
Kinda.
Yeah, I guess both films illustrate hustle culture.
Truly.
So the homeless character is always hustling, and they never have any resources, and are always just trying to get their next big score.
Yeah.
And the lady, oh my God, what's her name? The lady who sells like face creams and stuff.
Peg.
Yes. Diane Weist.
Yeah, that's right.
Kim's mother. Also, this is the first film with Winona Ryder and Johnny Depp, and they became, like the 90s, like a thirst trap, I guess, couple.
Weren't they a couple?
Whatever.
Yeah.
I think they were in real life, yeah, and they met on this movie. But Diane Weist is always hustling, trying to sell stuff, and then, the film's about enterprising. Both films are about enterprising. Like Alan Arkin's like, you gotta make money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's true. Well, exactly. It seems like it's just about people who are kind of caught in the web of
capitalist
kind of
machine.
capitalist expectations. Yeah.
And I'd say both films sort of heavily depict like shopping.
Yeah.
Because the one homeless guy's always shopping for booze and trying to steal it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like is there like an exploration of antagonism between consumerism but also being an entrepreneur? Like it's this real tug of war in both films, I feel like.
I mean, you can say whatever you want and it's true because it's on a podcast.
That's right. Just educating the masses with a bunch of bullshit. I'm just saying off the top of my head.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into casting because this film's kind of crazy. The leading person who is considered for Edward Scissorhands was none other than Tom Cruise.
Really?
And he was almost Edward Scissorhands. But Tom Cruise had a bunch of demands, like he wanted a happier ending, and he also struggled to understand the character.
Yeah.
So eventually that fell through. Tom Hanks Gary Oldman. Both turned it down, but they were considered.
Right.
Isn't that fucked up?
That is, yeah. I can't imagine Tom Cruise in this. I mean, I could, I guess, but
it would be terrible. I think the only guy who could maybe pull it off is Gary Oldman, like young Gary Oldman.
Yeah, pre-Tiptoes Gary Oldman.
Yes. Wow. God bless Tiptoes. I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, this movie is 10 years pre-Tiptoes.
Yes. I think I forget the films we watch, the bad ones, because they scar me.
Yes.
Like I just have to like separate myself from those films.
It's like your Edward Scissorhands, and you're looking at your own hands, and they're the movies we watch, and you're cutting yourself. You're lacerating your own face.
That's right. Do you think this was like Johnny Depp's way of getting back at Freddy Krueger? He's like, look at me. I have Scissorhands now.
I never thought about that.
There's some fun fanfic in there, I think.
Yeah.
Canines, whip out your typewriters and start using those paws and start writing some fanfic and send it our way. Just giant like keys on a typewriter, big enough for a dog's paw.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cute?
Very cute.
So in Tim Burton's mind, it was always going to be Johnny Depp. But
it seems like that's been his casting choice, or his casting raison d'être since this movie.
Oh, I could hear you say that over and over again. That was really fun and guttural.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, he had never seen 21 Jump Street. He just liked Johnny Depp's face and saw him in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, he's like hunky, but then also can pull off goth, which I think
is. Well, so he is goth, but he was cast as a non-goth early on by like studios, right? Like 21 Jump Street and Nightmare Before Elm Street. I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street, 21 Jump Street. A lot of street names early on in the in the
he lives on a street in this movie.
That's right. He does live on a street in this movie.
Yeah.
Probably lives on a street in real life too.
Yeah, probably.
And he's a musician, so he's almost like a Backstreet Boy. That's crazy.
Wow.
really figuring shit out on this one. My God. Anyway, so he got the role. He's also the only actor they talked to who read the script and just immediately understood it. And apparently he was quite emotional upon initial viewing.
Yeah.
And then he took it and he like dived right into the role, and he watched a lot of Charlie Chaplin because he realized it was such a physical performance and not very verbal. You know, it was all about his hunch.
Yeah, every time he spoke, I was always surprised that he could speak.
Yes, totally. But it's such a physical movie, even though he doesn't move very much. It's just his like posture. Like I love how cartoonish the film is. It's so beautiful. Like the opening frame that you see him for the first time when he's in the shadow.
Yeah,
it's great. It's just like it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Just gotta say, the bookends of the movie super unnecessary.
I agree. Like when she's reading to her granddaughter.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
I did not remember that this was a part of the movie, and then I was like, "What?" It not only is it like poorly kind of written and poorly performed. Sorry, Winona.
No, it's not her best work. I agree.
And the makeup is like, yeah, she's not really an old lady. You know,
no,
you can really tell. But then also they do it with so few shots too. There's like a large chunk where at the beginning where you don't even see the old lady's face anymore, and then it just kind of like moves on from that. And it's like, why do you even put this in the anyway?
I think it could have been done with just VO. Like they didn't need it. Maybe VO is out of style at that point, but it didn't need to be like, oh, she's reading to her granddaughter. It should have just been voiceover, like a fairy tale, without the literal reading of a book. It
must have been a thing at the time because it kind of reminded me of Princess Bride.
Yes.
There must have been a couple other movies back then where it's just like, hey, here's a fantastic story. Let's frame it as a story.
Oh, the Never-Ending Story.
Yeah,
that was also
that's another one of that
by
area.
A book. Yeah. I thought it was clunky. Even in great films, there's like usually one element that you're like, wow, this does not work.
No.
And like, you know, in Midsommar with the whole thesis debate that was just like thrown in there for no reason. It's like, ugh.
This is
bad.
Street trash, the non-slime parts.
Yeah, so 92% of the movie.
Yeah. If you're going for slime, look elsewhere. That's what I gotta
There
say.
are slimier movies.
There are
like the Nickelodeon Teens Choice Awards.
Yeah.
Way slimier.
Super slimy.
Anyways, there's a little bit of slime in this movie because he cuts himself a few times.
He does, yeah.
Edward Scissorhands like, ooh, nicked my... Oh, and I guess, you know what? Both films are super slimy because Peg uses slime on Edward Scissorhands' face.
I was gonna say, yeah, that she's a slime merchant.
Yeah, so I'd say both films have insufficient slime, but are still slime heavy.
Gotta say, the slimy effects, like the sound effects, that the like stuff that she was making, kind of grossed me out.
Great Foley.
Yeah, it was really good
Foley.
I remember finding that to be very visceral when I was a kid.
Yes, and it is like, I think, really loud.
Yeah.
It's like the waterbed is like a few dB higher than it should be, and he's like poking it, and the water starts pouring everywhere.
Also, him sleeping on the waterbed. They should have saw.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, here, you sleep on the waterbed, guy with scissors for hands.
Oh God. Silly. I also like both films, and one's more successful than the other. They don't over-explain stuff. So like the Viper killing people and turning people to acid or whatever, they don't explain that. It's just the truth. And they don't explain how Vincent Price, this was his last movie, R.I.P. He was very ill while making the movie.
Good one to go out on, though.
Yeah, this was a real banger, and it was like such a beautiful homage to him as an actor.
Yeah.
And Tim Burton was good for that. Like, he used Bela Lugosi and Ed Wood.
Yeah.
And like, he paid respect to the old horror that he loved so much. And like, it was nice to see Vincent Price kind of knock it out of the park before he died.
That's true, yeah.
In a role that was like ambiguous and just was like clearly referential to his earlier work. He was just like guy in castle who makes monsters. I just did really heavy air quotes for all of that. But they don't over-explain it. It just shows the book, and there's just a heart, and then he's like, look, I have hands for you. And then he dies. It's very sad and tragic. Yeah. But he just has scissor hands. Like, that was the weird, like, temporary solution.
Yeah, wild temporary solution. Yeah.
But you buy into it.
You buy into it because they don't try and explain it. It's just like, you got scissor hands for a while I work on the real ones.
I think that's like a testament to like brave filmmaking to be like, this doesn't make any sense, and we're not even going to try to explain it.
Wait, so was Edward a robot?
He is an artificial being.
Yeah.
So that's neither here nor there. Not a robot, not a human. Something man-made. The word artificial is what's used in the description.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like an artificial being. So whatever that means. But he bleeds. And he is human because he has a heart, because it's from the template of the cookie cutter thing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you should mention just not showing a lot of information in this movie, because there's so many scenes in the movie, especially his relationship with Kim. Mm-hmm. Like, once he meets her, she's instantly scared or whatever. And then they cut forward in time. And so any scene that you see, that's the only information you're getting about these characters. But in real life, if this happened, even if you jumped forward in time in the movie, he would have had to interact with her for, dozens of hours, sometimes in between some of these scenes.
Yes.
So you really don't. Yeah, you get a good arc for their relationship in the movie, but there's so much time that they would have been spending together anyway, where they would have bonded, outside of the scenes that are in the movie. I guess that's just explaining editing in a film.
Well, if you think about it, their shared on-screen time is super short.
Yeah.
But they fall in love. They like the boyfriend guy, like fuck shit up. Like all of this stuff happens, and it's done very economically. Well,
exactly. Because the scene where
they spend more time cutting hair.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of cutting. Some good cuts in this movie. The scene where he is like, we gotta break into my dad's room, and then the next scene is them doing it, and so you assume that she talked to Edward about it and he agreed to do it. And I was just surprised when they cut that far in advance, because you'd think you would have had to try and convince him to do it, but he just was I'm gonna do this.
That's it's cool. It's like good brave filmmaking.
Well, yeah, brave,
maybe just cavalier. Like, who cares? Like, this will work.
Yeah,
I know it'll work.
Yeah, you're watching. Well, I mean, it kind of. Yeah, definitely a movie like this. Movies from the 90s and 80s. They did stuff like that all the time, where it's like, this is all we need to know. The audience will just assume whatever happened in between these two scenes. Whereas nowadays, you would see all of the stuff. You would see all of the stuff.
Yeah, there's like way more exposition dumps now, and that's like what's in style. Whereas back then, I think audiences were more forgiving and filmmakers were less fearful. They were like, "Don't worry, it'll make sense," and sometimes it doesn't, and you don't care.
I guess also, if you're that far into the movie about a guy who has scissors for hands, and you didn't really like question that much, you're not going to be like, why would he agree to do this?
yeah. You're not going to be like dramaturgy for the film.
Yeah,
be like, I don't know if this makes total sense.
No,
it's like, who gives a shit?
I don't believe the motivation of the Scissorhands guy.
How is this guy walking? Clearly, his hands were made out of foam when he cut them up when Vincent Price dies. Like, what the fuck? Like, that didn't make any sense.
It's also funny that he wears that like leather suit with all the buckles and stuff all the time, and then is always wearing that even when he's wearing pants and a shirt and like suspenders over top of it.
Well, that's another thing that needed to be explained, because it's like that's not clothing, that's his skin.
Yeah,
this like BDSM outfit that he's wearing.
Well, but also I guess you could say characters in both movies wear the same clothes every day
for the whole film until they die.
But it also kind of takes on that kind of Simpsons-esque reality where the characters just wear the same clothes every day, and you don't question it.
Well, like, and a whole thing about Edward Scissorhands was trying to like really reduce suburban America into like a very sort of simple representation of what it is. So taking cookie cutter and making it even more cookie cutter. Like, they only use 4 colors for all of the houses and cars. And
interesting.
The 4 colors: seafoam green, dirty flesh; butter, dirty blue. Those were the colors, and they were muted pastel colors. And they also tried to, in all the houses, they made the windows look smaller, just to really show how boxed in everyone is in this like made up suburbia.
Yeah.
And they shot it in Tampa Bay, Florida.
Oh, but that must have been a set.
No, so the street. All the exteriors are on location in Florida.
Did they just build those houses?
They were already there. They just repainted them all.
Oh, okay.
They spent a huge amount of money repainting like several blocks of this suburbia, right? They wanted to shoot in California, but they decided not to. So the castle is a set.
Yeah.
Some of the interiors are a set, and they shot that in Burbank.
Yeah.
But all the exterior stuff, like that great shot of the cars leaving as everyone goes to work in the morning, that was all done on location.
Interesting. I assumed it was pretty cool. A giant studio lot.
No, they shot it on location. And apparently, like in 1989, when they were shooting, they pumped in $4 million into the local economy.
Way to go, you guys.
And created over 300 temporary jobs for locals.
Way to go.
Pretty cool. So yeah, all of that stuff was like, that suburb existed. Southgate Shopping Mall existed. They were all real, which is kind of sick because the film didn't even have to try to fake it. That suburbia just already existed.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe that's a similarity. Like, New York in the 80s was very dirty and run down and had a lot of like vacant lots and stuff. Yeah. So the production probably could just like look at a spot and be like, this is filthy. Let's shoot.
Exactly.
Here.
Yeah, that's probably what they did.
And with Edward Scissorhands, they kind of did the same thing. They're like, oh, look at this like white suburbia. Yeah, all they had to do was mute the color.
It kind of commented on a different East Coast city or state.
Yeah. Just one that's further south and a little warmer. But also, so Johnny Depp, it took an hour and 45 minutes to get that whole do on every morning. And apparently he was just sweating his bag off because they were shooting in Florida and it was super hot out.
Yeah, I guess that would have been really hot wearing that.
All leather,
and then wearing clothes on top of it.
Pajamas on top of it, or like a weird suit.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, it's kind of crazy. The last thing I want to talk about is the topiaries were made out of wire. So it would be like a metal skeleton, chicken wire, and then plastic like leaves to make all the topiaries look the way they did.
Cool.
Because you can't make a hedge look that way. So anyways, that's kind of interesting. Took a lot of work.
Yeah, they were pretty impressive.
I thought so. And there's like a dinosaur one, and I was like, this is fun. It's like I'd say this is the precursor to Dinosploitation.
Yeah, it was a little bit
like Edward Scissorhands has like the DNA, the seeds of what would become Dinosploitation.
Dino DNA.
You bastard.
Yeah, so some similarities between the movies. Gotta say, both very horny.
Oh yeah, you're right. They are super horny.
They're both
like
very
unnecessarily.
Unnecessarily horny. I did not remember how horny Edward Scissorhands was. I was gonna say
like that.
Ernest,
the one lady, the one neighbor, the nosy one.
Yeah, like they're all very horny for Edward, and it must just be because he's kind of has BDSM-ish gear. But
well, can I jump on top of that? Both films have female characters horny for objectively unattractive men.
Yeah, well, monsters.
Well, yeah, literally monsters, like that cannibal guy with the bone.
Yeah.
That one she's always complaining about how he's never given out the goods.
Yeah. Well, he's not.
Well, yeah, he's not delivering.
He's got a bone knife, but it's not for her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Amen. Ain't that the truth? And yeah, they're horny for Sir Johnny Depp.
Yeah, there's a lot of perv energy in both films for sure.
Well, they're only a few years apart, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
maybe there's a whole perv subgenre in Hollywood filmmaking.
Yeah, there must have been like a real kind of horny energy of late 80s, early 90s America that these films were both kind of capturing.
Is Beetlejuice horny?
Yes. I mean, the man himself. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Beetlejuice. That's another movie from
yeah, that's a film we never brought up, but that was a huge film.
Yeah. Wow, what a couple of years.
He had a real fun string of hits, like crazy shit. Yeah, they were all bangers too.
I can see why he's still around, even if he's not making the movies we want him to be making.
He's making some real duds now.
Yeah, but also
even Big Eyes, I was like, I don't know if I want you to be the biopic guy.
Did he make Big Fish?
Yes, he did. And that's a great movie.
Yeah, so 2 big movies, but not big.
That was Penny Marshall. He did not. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Imagine if his version of Big would be crazy. Way more stop motion.
But also every goth kind of like chills out, you know? Like Tim Burton was a goth who kind of had his day in the sun, so to speak, his heyday. Yeah. And then, you know, every goth kind of like chills out. Robert Smith from The Cure, what's he up to now? He's probably vacationing somewhere all the time.
He's probably in Florida.
For all
living the life. That's right. You know, yeah, that's a really good point, Mike. That's a really good point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, both have horny energy. Speaking of the bone knife, so there's a character in Street Trash. His name is Bronson. He has a bone knife. He's constantly having Vietnam flashbacks to the point where he's thinking that they're real and attacking people. But he carries around a knife made out of a bone, and he uses it as his trademark weapon. Mm-hmm. Not unlike Raph with his size in Ninja Turtles. But this time he's like a guy who lives in a garbage dump and uses a knife fashioned from a bone. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like body horror kind of weaponry. Mm-hmm. And the same could be said for Edward Scissorhands himself, who has the titular scissor hands.
Yeah, his hands are made of scissors.
Scissors, yeah.
I guess both films also depict a crime.
Mm-hmm.
One, I mean, obviously, Street Trash, many crimes are committed.
So many.
But robbery is committed in Edward Scissorhands.
That's right.
And I guess also they play with the idea that of like the anti-hero. Like Edward Scissorhands is an anti-hero, I suppose.
Well, they're all the rejects of society.
Yes, that's right. And they're like misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
But also the authority figures are actually the bad guys in both films. Because like that cop is not a good dude.
No.
And maybe both films have an unnecessary cutscene because of the sort of dialogue, like the, Winona Ryder grandma reading to little girl.
Yes.
That's unnecessary and the movie ends. And also like the kid who is about to get killed by that like mob boss who owns that restaurant, and then he drinks the Viper and just melts. That's not necessary. Right. It was fun though. It was fun.
Yeah, all of the mob boss stuff felt kind of pointless.
It was such a waste. And I was like, these people are not Italian, and they're just trying to do like thick Italian gangster accents for no reason.
Well, yeah, but the movie also kind of has the energy of kind of an ensemble film. Mm-hmm. Like it just kind of goes between all of these different stories and just kind of tells a little bit of each story. It's not like you follow this one character through the whole movie. There's all these other little characters that you have to learn their stories, and then some of them are better than others. And the mob stuff in Street Trash is real bad, but
yeah, I guess like both films are like a collision of several genres. Because Edward Scissorhands is like a comedy, but also a horror film,
kind of.
And Street Trash is like a horror film, but also an Italian gangster film.
Yeah, and also a comedy sometimes.
Yeah,
like
and
slapstick.
A comedy.
There's some slapstick elements in
and
both movies.
It's a slimer. I think you could call it it's a slimer.
Well, it's a slime-a-rama.
Slime-a-rama, right.
Yeah,
that's the technical term, right?
I believe
it is.
Term. I actually believe it is. Speaking of the gangster parts, there's like kind of gender representation in movies, which are, I mean, in Street Trash, definitely problematic, but also kind of inherent to just the film's vibe, I guess, so to speak. And so in both movies, there's like a lot of aggro entitled males in the movie. Yeah. Like the Kim's boyfriend in Edward Scissorhands. And then there's just kind of like the women are not really greatly represented in either film.
They're very much like a reduction, like a reductionist.
Yeah, like the
version of female writing.
Yeah, the few female characters who are like in the homeless camp are just kind of like these screeching like women.
Yes.
And you could kind of say that about all the neighborhood women in Edward Scissorhands. Like the gender representation in both films is not positive.
No, it really isn't.
Yeah, even if like you're supposed to kind of see it as some sort of toxic masculinity that you're not supposed to, want to support. It doesn't represent the women well.
No, it doesn't. I think the only sort of defense, because like Edward Scissorhands was written by Caroline Thompson, and she, I think like what you're saying is totally true, but I think the attempt she was trying to make, because like the Alan Arkin character has no arc either. He's like, he listens to baseball.
No Arkin.
He just like trims his head. Like everyone's reduced to their simplest form, including Edward Scissorhands. So the movie is walking this fine line where there are no real characters.
No.
It's like even Winona Ryder's character, it's like, what is she even about? And it's not really anything. You know what I mean?
She's not even like a rebellious teen or anything. She's just kind of like a love interest.
She like loves her parent. Yeah, like everyone's very reduced. Whereas like Street Trash is straight up problematic.
Yeah.
Super duper problematic. So that's kind of where they diverge, but I think the end result is very similar.
Okay. There's so much going on in Street Trash. In a way, does it not get away with it because it doesn't care about anything? And so as a result, you're just like, well, if I get into this, then this is fine, which is, I guess, is an entitled thing to say, or a privileged thing to say, to be like, I'm not living on the streets. I'm not, experiencing sexual assault. So
yeah,
because it's like, look at all this slime and look at just the bottom of the barrel of society.
It's very much like a circus freak show. Yeah, but it's like the film is trying to get away with like necrophilia and rape.
Yeah,
and maybe to some it does get away with it, but for me, I was like, this is unwatchable. This film.
I'm sure. Yeah, it was definitely played for laughs. Those scenes.
Oh yeah, they were all dealt with like levity.
Yeah,
I mean, all the deaths are funny, but it's so dark when you really look at it. Like the fat guy who owns the junkyard, like his character is so despicable.
Yeah,
it's but it's all played for with laughs. Yeah,
but this is Reagan's America.
That's true. Yeah, trickle down economics.
I guess
they clearly don't work.
Both movies were actually kind of reflections of Reagan's America, I guess you could say, because
similar era, right?
Oh no, I guess
Clinton was
no. Edward Scissorhands was made in the Bush era. Just that 4 year.
Oh right, Bush Senior. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So never mind. Although I guess maybe because he only had the one term, so it technically was just kind of the runoff of Reagan's America, we could say. We'll say that.
Here's a really good similarity.
Okay.
Both films have a character with very big hair.
Yes.
Okay. So the main like homeless guy with the red hat has his hair is big. He's got big hair. It's like a crazy aesthetic that he's rocking. And Edward Scissorhands somehow just has that big, cool goth do.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of hairspray on both movies.
Very hairy heavy.
Yeah. There's a scene in Street Trash where a guy gets his wiener cut off.
Yep, that's true.
With the bone blade. And
call it what it is, a bone knife.
A bone knife. And then one can assume Edward Scissorhands probably cut his wiener off. Maybe he did. I mean, he clearly doesn't have a wiener. No, probably not.
As a character, he doesn't have a wiener.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's really good stuff, Mike. That's
one can assume that he may have been trying to handle it at some point for some reason.
Well, when you're a teenager and your daddy's dead, but you're horny, you're like, I got to figure out this whole masturbation thing, And maybe he tried and failed.
Also, what does he eat when he's alone in that house for so many years?
I don't think he needs to eat.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. He's like,
because how's he wiping his butt? There's all these problems. Like where he gets spoon fed all those jelly salads in the backyard, which was a for real take. His mouth got full of food. I would say that's a slime scene.
Yeah, that's a slime.
That's part of the slime-a-rama. Yeah. But yeah, he's like, where's he shitting? How's he wiping that tush? All these problems. There's no zippers on his outfit that really I can see that function.
Yeah.
So it's like he doesn't need to shit, doesn't have a bean. He has a heart, but he has no fingers. He has scissor hands.
Yeah.
There's all this shit.
Yeah.
But he bleeds. It doesn't make any sense.
Also in both movies, there is a character who has a Vietnam flashback. Who was in Vietnam.
Right, because Alan Arkin was in.
No. There's just an old man at the barbecue who talks about Vietnam briefly and Edward Scissorhands, which was kind of weird. Yeah.
Crazy. What an interesting... I forgot about that. And
then there's flashbacks in both movies. The Edward Scissorhands thinking about Vincent Price. Winona Ryder's character as an old lady is thinking about Edward Scissorhands. And then the Vietnam vet guy in Street Trash is just going full flashback.
Yeah, chopping off that guy's leg.
Crazy stuff.
I guess, both films, just to steal your similarity and just say it again, lol. They both films have a ton of flashbacks to trauma. Because Edward Scissorhands' daddy dies,
Yeah.
And that Vietnam guy, he did a bunch of crazy shit in Vietnam.
And they're not looking after him.
Yeah. I only have one more similarity. Both films have a weird dated depiction of clothing in the modern era. Because the main hobo guy looks like he's from the 30s. He has a cartoonish outfit from the 30s. And then Edward Scissorhands has a timeless outfit, but Vincent Price very much looks like a 19th century Dracula character.
He does, yeah.
But one can presume he was working in the 50s or 60s making Edward and cookies with robots.
Yeah.
And also all of the robots are futurism design. But one can argue is probably not that era when they were being used. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And both are very colorful films.
Yes, very colorful.
That take place mainly in the day. In a very kind of bright, evenly lit daytime.
Yeah, not a lot of stylized lighting.
No.
Which was a fun, deliberate choice.
Yeah. Also, both kind of suggest gentrification in some ways. As in, the group of homeless people, they're kind of cast away from society. That area will later get gentrified. And I think the neighborhood in Edward Scissorhands is kind of interesting because there's this very kind of cookie cutter suburbs. And then right at the heart of it is this giant spooky tower. Which kind of implies that there was probably more things like that before the suburbs moved in.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know what you mean. That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, fuck. I love the like dichotomy of the old spooky castle and then just like white suburbia, and they just are coexisting, and nobody ever bothered to go up the hill until Peg does.
Yeah. Actually, the Addams Family kind of has a similar thing too.
Right. And there was a similar era when the films came out, right?
Yeah, well, both 91, I think.
Ooh, 1990 for Edward Scissorhands.
Oh,
so
right,
91
right.
for Addams Family.
Same kind of span.
Yeah. Goth Middle America exploitation. Is that what we'll call it?
Did you see the new Addams Family movie, like the new cartoon?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
No, it wasn't good. I saw it with my 2 child nieces.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good movie, but also really like leans much, much harder into the goth family living amongst the suburbs.
Interesting.
Way more than the original movie does.
Yeah. Weird. I might have to give it a watch because I want to watch the 2 Addams Family movies that are on Netflix right now because they're fun.
They hold up. They're good.
Yeah. Addams Family Values. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
Nice.
Anyways, that's it for similarities on my front. Do you have a couple more?
No, I'm good.
Oh, shit. Look at that. And are they the same film?
Oh, they're the exact same film. Class consciousness, kind of outcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Amongst the capitalist hellscape that is at that time seen as heaven, when there's actually something darker lurking underneath.
It's so fun when you realize that the nuclear family is a fallacy. But not a phallic object being thrown like a football in a junkyard.
Yes. Yeah.
A fallacy.
Yeah, I was inspired by Bob's hatred of street trash. And I suggested, hey, maybe we should like have some like mini reviews at the end of every episode.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, what's your rating for each of these films?
So Edward Scissorhands, I'd say 4.5 milk bones out of 5.
Nice.
And Street Trash is -2 milk bones.
Oh, wow.
It's a negative score. I hated it. I hate that it exists. I hate that people made it.
So
I just hate it.
It being an equal opportunity offender kind of movie.
Yeah.
You were offended equally.
Yes, I was. And it was just like boring. Like the slime was fun. Like it was fun seeing a guy melt into a toilet. I was like, that's objectively funny and fun. But just everything around it was so bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, seeing a cop, just like make himself vomit on some dead guy near a urinal, I was just like, this is so unnecessary. Whose idea was this? I hated it. How about you? What's your score, Sitch?
I would kind of agree about Edward Scissorhands. I might even give it a full 5.
Wow, 5 milk bones.
5 milk bones, yeah.
Shout out to Milkbone, official sponsor from Justin McCain.
They don't know, but they are.
Yes, we're going to ask for money post this recording. We'll see how it goes.
It's Facebook official that they are our sponsor.
We like them on Facebook.
Yeah, we poke them every once in a while, and they do not reciprocate. And what is going on?
We also got a cease and desist in the email saying stop saying Milkbone, but we'll never stop.
Our relationship it's complicated. These Facebook jokes are killing right now.
Well, it's very topical because it's going to change to whatever the hell it's changing to.
The metaverse or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
We should be doing we should record in the metaverse when we get the chance.
I'm good.
Yeah, okay. My review of Street Trash, I probably give it a 2, maybe 2.5, 3.
Milk bones?
Yeah, I appreciated the slime-a-rama aspects.
And
that I'm leaning hard towards that because that was what I was wanting out of the film. And I was kind of surprised by the class commentary in the film. It was stronger than I was expecting. But it was ultimately like a 2/3 boring, 1/3 exciting film.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. It was just the ratio of fun to not fun. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Say the thing, Bart.
This feels over.
Great. Nice. This is over. So we also are going to change up our podcast a little bit by announcing what the next week's movies are, so people can maybe watch them in advance if they want to follow along, which I doubt they will, but
I also doubt it. But you know what? Life's for living. Let's give it a shot, see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It may at least make them in their mind be like, going to skip that one.
Yeah, totally.
In advance instead of being surprised by whether they want to skip it or not.
Or it's fun that they know an episode's coming out with a film they've already seen.
Yeah.
Like, probably that's the case with next week's episode. What are the 2 movies?
So next week's movies, we are going to be talking about Minari, the festival favorite, or Oscar favorite, I guess, also kind of, from last year. Yeah. And a obscure film, an obscure Spanish language film, ? Starring none other than Mickey Rooney, where he plays a baby. I found out about this movie on Twitter today, and I was I got to see this movie. We got to talk about this in the pod. And
so we're going to.
You can watch it in full on YouTube, and it's called The Milky Life. And so the Milky Life.
Does he ever say, as a old man in a diaper pretending to be a baby want milky? Is he just pursuing like a breast for milk?
As I understand it, he does breastfeed in the film.
Oh man, I can't wait to watch this. It's gonna be like Game of Thrones all over again. It's gonna be great.
But yeah, so it's called The Milky Life, and it's about a billionaire who gets hit on the head and thinks he's a baby. And so it's Mickey Rooney walking around in a diaper. And one of the, you know how you're like really annoyed by clowns?
Oh, yes.
One thing that really bothers me is when adults play children or babies.
Oh yeah.
Like way too accurately, or what they think is accurately. Like
baby voice is like a whole upsetting thing. Like on stage, like improvisers are guilty of that.
Oh yeah, I hate it.
Yeah. Clowning and like baby kid voice, very upsetting.
Just when you go see a play and there's adults playing kids and they're all wearing overalls and a primary colored t-shirt,
that's right.
Underneath it. And then they all just like act like they're distracted constantly always. And like they have no motor skills.
Yeah. I once saw you wearing a diaper in a comedy sketch. I feel like maybe you're guilty of this.
No, because the character that I was playing was a British kind of like...
Oh, Cockney, like...
He's a geezer.
Right.
He's a Cockney geezer, so it was kind of like Baby Herman in Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of vibes.
That's right.
The dichotomy of baby with an adult brain and voice. I was actually
very fun.
Doing something good. Not bad and annoying.
I'm sorry I question the integrity of your art.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, those are the 2 films. So if feel free to watch them. Feel free not to. They're both easy to access.
Yeah.
Minari's on Amazon Prime, and The Milky Life, Baby Want Milky, is on YouTube, I guess. So we'll figure that out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and follow us on social media from Justin Duquesne with the number 2, and then also send us an email. Just a question or a comment or a drawing. From Justin Duquesne, all words @gmail.com.
Yes.
So from Justin Duquesne @gmail.com, not from Justin Duquesne, all words @gmail.com. Maybe that's why nobody emails us these last couple weeks, because I probably said all words every time.
Yeah. The number 2. Speaking of which, you probably have to go take a number 2.
Maybe baby go poopy.
Baby want milky, then poopy.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
That's a great way to end this episode. Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.